Hi Thyroid Bootcamp members, this is Dr. Patel. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing the absolute basics to get better. A lot of people come to my practice and you might be going to your practitioner's practices and you're frustrated with your results. But what I find is that most people are not focused on the basics, and the basics is where it's at. If you look at the best athletes on the planet, if you look at the foundation that they lay their success on is the absolute basics. So this is very critical. You will never get better, to be perfectly honest, and if anyone tells you otherwise, they're lying to you. You will never get better until you address these 10 foundational basics that we're going to be talking about today. And each of these topics could be an hour-long conversation, but I'm going to narrow them down and keep them very focused and very tight. And then in future videos, we'll be discussing these in more detail. So let's get started. Of course, you know that putting yourself back together requires a team, and it might be a few different practitioners. It might be people in your life, your spouse, your coworkers, whoever that team is. Make sure you honor them and make sure you recognize them and thank them periodically. But your case is a puzzle, and it might take a few people to put it together to get the results that you're looking for. What's really, really important to promote good health is a consistent sleep and wake cycle. I find that most people that come see me are going to bed way too late and they're waking up at inconsistent times during the week. Your weekday and weekend sleep and wake schedule should be the same. I know this is hard for people to absorb and hard for people to put into practice, and it was for me at one time, but it's very, very critical. Sleep is when your body does most of its healing. This is when the regenerative processes of healing take place, is when you're sleeping. The ideal times to sleep are between 10 and 6 a.m. So it's good to start winding down by around 8 o'clock, about 2 hours before you're ready to go to sleep. Keep the lights as dim as possible in the home. You can wear amber lenses, which is a little bit more advanced technique. I would highly encourage you to switch out your CFL light bulbs to incandescent bulbs, the old school bulbs that we've been using our entire lives. That bright, white, pure light is actually very, very toxic to our sleep and wake cycle. I also suggest that you get a salt lamp. A salt lamp has a nice soft glow to it and resembles the sunset or the sunrise, and this can actually send important signals to our brain. Watching TV or looking at your computer screen or on your phone late at night can also mess with your sleep and wake schedule. Having that consistent sleep and wake schedule is very, very important for healing. So that's one place that you can start. Most of the things that I'm going to talk about today don't cost you a penny. Number 2, reduce stress. Now you might be rolling your eyes. You may have heard this a million times. This is very, very critical. We'll be doing a whole video on stress and how it plays a role in your overall health and wellness. But reducing stress is important because it decreases your sympathetic overflow and increases parasympathetic activity. It's during parasympathetic activity that most of our healing takes place. This is very, very critical, and we're going to be spending a lot more time discussing this in future videos. Number 3, move, exercise, and breathe. Whether you love to exercise, that's great. Find something that moves you throughout the day. Also important to do is breathe. Most people, because we're sitting so much and because our breath has become so shallow, we don't breathe adequately. And breathing is very, very critical. Breathing is the life force that allows us to function at a much higher level. There will be some breathing techniques that we'll be discussing, and we discuss these at our workshops, and I discuss these with my patients in person. But breathing is so critical and so overlooked, and it doesn't cost you anything. You have to breathe. You may as well breathe correctly. You have to move. You may as well move in a way you love to move. If it's dancing, if it's hiking, if it's riding your bike, if it's working out at the gym, if it's joining a class, if it's playing with your children, whatever the case may be, find some excuse to move. You shouldn't really have to find an excuse. You should be moving naturally. You were built and designed to move. Movement is analogous with life. So make sure you're moving, breathing, and exercising. Number 4 is balancing blood sugars. One of the greatest threats to your thyroid and to your adrenal system is actually low blood sugar. Most people that come see me are reactive hypoglycemics. This accounts for 80% of the headaches that I see in my practice. This accounts for the constant sugar cravings. This accounts for the energy crashes. This accounts for the adrenal fatigue that I see clinically in practice. So balancing your blood sugars by eating a low glycemic diet and timing your meals correctly. I suggest intermittent fasting to patients, but some people aren't healthy enough to do that. So you have to find a clinician that understands your goals and understands your body and ensures that you can actually do the things that are necessary to balance out blood sugar. Very, very critical. In most instances, just simply balancing blood sugar gets rid of 60 to 70% of a patient's complaints within the first week. The changes can be absolutely incredible and quite dramatic in a short period of time. Number 5 is eliminate gluten and dairy. Now, I'm not suggesting that you find gluten and dairy alternatives, but what I am suggesting is that you probably can eliminate this class of foods from your diet and be perfectly fine. I've yet to meet somebody who eliminates gluten and dairy and feels worse in the long run. Sometimes people do experience withdrawal symptoms. This is very important to note, and I do warn my patients that they might experience some withdrawal symptoms because gluten and dairy do contain opioid-like compounds, which are actually highly addictive and can cause withdrawal symptoms just like a drug can. Don't be afraid to give these foods up. And also, you might expect certain symptoms that might associate with the withdrawal symptoms of these foods, but these are very, very important compounds to remove from your diet. Now, replacing gluten-containing muffins or wheat-based muffins with gluten-free muffins isn't what I'm suggesting. What I typically suggest to patients on a much higher level, people who are more advanced, is that you eliminate grains and dairy, because virtually all grains are toxic to our digestive tracts. But that's a little bit more advanced. You can start with gluten and dairy. Those are easier things to eliminate in the meantime. Number 6 is identify and address anemias. A lot of people's energy issues and health disorders are caused by anemias. Anemias are so overlooked and often not addressed. A lot of times doctors are waiting for you to become lab low and then diagnose your anemia. They're not measuring the right markers. They're not looking at ferritin. They might not be looking at the most accurate measurements for B12 to identify if you are anemic or not. And it's often a very, very inexpensive intervention to address anemias. Now, if you are getting enough iron and B12 in your diet, assuming you're not vegetarian and you're digesting your food thoroughly and you're eating enough, then the question would be, why are you anemic? Some people might have pernicious anemia. Pernicious anemia is caused by intrinsic factor antibodies attacking our body's ability to absorb B12 in the gut, or it could be caused by hypochlorhydria, which is not enough stomach acid production, which compromises B12 and iron absorption. It could also even be parasites or dysbiosis in the bowel, which doesn't allow us to absorb our nutrients adequately as well. So there's a variety of factors that can lead to chronic anemias, and a lot of times addressing anemias alleviate a lot of the symptoms that patients are coming in with. You also need iron in order for you to make thyroid hormone. So that's something to keep in mind as well. You need iron for virtually every enzyme reaction in your body, including building your neurotransmitters. So your mood, your motivation, all of those things depend on adequate amounts of iron. Number 7 is pursue a hobby. Find something that you love doing. When I think back to college, I love to go out. I love to hang out with my friends, and there was always something to look forward to. So no matter how stressful my week was, I always had something to look forward to. Now my hobby is photography or spending time with my son or writing blog articles. I love to do certain things and I look forward to them on a daily basis. Your life should contain things that you look forward to because that gives us hope. And there's nothing more powerful than hope and doing something that we love with people we love. And that brings me to number 8, get support. Let the people around you understand what you're going through. A lot of you might have invisible thyroid issues, which means that people can't see it. Thyroid is a very, very difficult condition to deal with when you have it because it's what I call an invisible illness. Most people don't know you have a thyroid problem. They might just think you're lazy or you're tired or you don't have the motivation and they don't know how to help you. So they're going to bark directions at you or they're going to tell you to, wake up and, they're not going to be able to support you unless you really help them understand what's going on. Have them watch our videos, have them come to a seminar, have them come to your consultations when you go see your doctor, have them read a book. Help them understand what you're going through so they can support you. If they don't understand what you're going through, it's impossible for them to support you. And you need that support system in order for you to be healthy and vibrant. And we need support regardless of whether we're sick or not. We need support even when we're healthy, because we might have passions and pursuits and things that we want to do with our lives that require support from the people around us. So gather a team of people around you that are going to support you, and you be part of that support system for somebody else as well. You never know whose life you can change simply by supporting somebody else and getting the support that you need as well. Number 9 sounds so obvious, but often overlooked. Eat real food. If you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. If you can't make it, don't eat it. If it's not something that you could actually make in your kitchen, then you probably shouldn't be eating it. If it's not something that you can grow, then you shouldn't be eating it. So food these days, unfortunately, has become very, very convenient. And usually the foods that are the most convenient for us aren't the healthiest for us. What I tell my patients is, when you look at your plate, when you look at your spoon and your fork, you're looking at yourself. You're looking at your future self. This is what will become part of you. So your food is very, very important. You have to look at it from a spiritual standpoint, from a nutritional standpoint, and from the basic understanding that this food literally becomes woven into your cells. So you can choose who you become by choosing what you eat. And number 10, get the right blood work. We're going to be sending you an email that has a list of all the right markers. Get the right blood work done. Most people come to me and they have the wrong blood work. If your doctor is ordering the wrong blood work, they're never going to be able to help you. How can I help someone if I have the wrong data points? If I don't have the right data points, I can't make the right decisions for somebody. And so thyroid disease is one of those conditions where a lot of the critical data points aren't measured. And because they aren't measured, nothing is being done about the underlying issues that are either causing the thyroid disease or part of the condition itself. One of the most overlooked markers when it comes to thyroid disease is the thyroid antibodies, your thyroglobulin antibodies and your thyroid peroxidase antibodies. Another 2 markers that are also overlooked are your T3, which is the active form of thyroid hormone, and reverse T3, which actually is a sign of inflammation or stress or toxicity or poor conversion. And this can actually take your medication, if you are on a medication, and convert it into an inactive form. Thus, your doctor might assume that everything is normal, but if they're not looking at T3 and reverse T3, as well as the antibodies, they're never going to know if there's some other mechanism that's causing you to continue to have symptoms. So here's 10 things that you must do, the 10 basics that you must do in order for you to even expect to get healthy. If you're doing 9 of these things, that's awesome, but you need to be doing all 10 of these things. Every single one of them is critical to your success, and everything that I talked about today really doesn't require any money. Sleeping, exercising, reducing stress, eating the right types of foods and eating them at the right time, eliminating certain compounds from your diet, addressing anemias, pursuing a hobby. A lot of these things you should be doing anyways. And if you're not, then don't expect to get healthy, because these are the 10 things that life is all about. Life is all about, having balance and loving what you do and pursuing a hobby and surrounding yourself with the right people and getting the support that you need. So try to address these 10 basic aspects, and then, and only then, should you expect to get better. Work with somebody who understands these 10 concepts and helps you find a formula to achieve them. So I'm not suggesting that you do these things on your own. Find someone who can coach you to implementing these strategies into your life. With that, I want to thank you for joining me on this short video. I hope you found this helpful and beneficial. I want you to share this with somebody else that you might think would benefit from this, because the more we share, the more we give, the more we get. When you share information about health, guess what? More health is transferred back to you. Thank you so much for joining me. And until the next video, I hope you have an awesome day.